Scheduler Dawn Cuevas referred to Jews as Nazis, described the Holocaust as a hoax, and called white people parasites.
It comes as Jewish employees at the corporation say it is a grim and frightening time to work there. Joining us now is Silverman, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Antisemitism, and former BBC producer John Mair. Thanks, both of you, for joining us. Let's go to you first, Stephen. I thought, this woman, Dawn Cuevas, what she was putting out on social media, just disgusting racism. Extraordinary that she should ever have been there in the first place. In fairness to the BBC, they didn't muck around 3 or 4 days and they sacked her. So she's a racist with a few of these ludicrous tropes about Jewish people and white people. She's an equal opportunity hater. We're the virus. Jewish people are Nazis and so on. Absolute nonsense. But what really worried me here, Stephen, was that a Jewish employee at the BBC said, in response to the Dawn Cuevas saga, bearing in mind this is the corporation that refuses to call Hamas terrorists and has been accused of a definite favourable slant towards against Israel. This employee said that this is a grim and frightening time to work at the BBC. That's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is extraordinary, and it comes on the back of British Jews having long been made to feel uncomfortable by their perception of bias in the BBC's coverage of matters relating to Israel. Since the atrocity that was committed by Hamas on 7th of October, that plaster has been ripped off the wound. It's become manifestly clear that the BBC has an institutional problem with Jews and Jewish issues. And, if you go back to last November, Danny Cohen, who is a former director of BBC Television, made the statement that the BBC was institutionally anti-Semitic. Now, the problem is manifesting itself in 3 separate ways. Firstly, there has been a constant drip of BBC employees openly engaging in deeply anti-Semitic rhetoric. Dawn Cuevas is just the most recent in an ignominious list. And if people want to see more, they can look them up on our website. Secondly, there is a very clear bias in the BBC's reporting of Israel's war against Hamas, in which Israel is being painted as a brutal aggressor, with complete disregard for the fact that this is a war that Israel is fighting in order to defend its citizens against a repeat of October the 7th. The BBC's reporting is actually inflaming anti-Semitism on the streets. And then finally, the BBC has a real problem with its refusal to take action against high-profile employees who use their celebrity to promote biased views to a vast social media following.
John, I'm going to come to you now. The talk of BBC bias continues to haunt the BBC, and I can well imagine, as with all and sundry that gets sucked into the culture wars and turned into a binary choice, that most UK newsrooms probably do very much lean in one direction that might make somebody feel that if they were Jewish, somewhat unwelcome or at least disquieted by conversations they hear at the water cooler. But I think perhaps one of the biggest problems with the BBC on reading some of these reports is some of the views being openly expressed by staff working in international newsrooms. What should the BBC be doing about this?
The charge sheet, isn't it, from my friend on the other side? I feel like I'm intruding on private grief here after the row I've just witnessed. But however, look, the system worked, didn't it? The BBC has 22,000 employees. Some of them will be loonies. Some of them will be loonies who go onto Facebook. This one went onto Facebook, and you know what? She got cut off at the knees. So the fox has been shot there. I would advise you to actually read The Guardian today. There's a rather good analytical piece about the BBC's and CNN's coverage of the Gaza war. It does seem to me that there is a strong journalistic question to be asked about reporting of the Gaza war. It's all been seen from the side of Israel. Israel has not allowed any reporters into Gaza. Now, that is just plain disgusting. You can't have a war in which only one side is reporting. So, and where's the BBC bias? When the culture secretary appeared the other day on Good Morning Britain, was asked for bias, she on Sky News, she was lost for words. So
John, are you saying that the BBC doesn't have a problem here? John, Are you saying that the BBC doesn't have a problem here in terms of its slant against Israel?
I don't know if they have a problem. I don't know.
Does the BBC have an anti-Semitism problem?
I don't think so. Somebody shouted, no. I mean, I think Danny Cohen has become a rent-a-gob. He really has. He pops up.
Danny Cohen's a rent-a-gob. The former head of the BBC One, a Jewish man. He's a rent-a-gob.
He is a rent-a-gob.
You're going to stand by that? You're going to call him a rent-a-gob?
I am, yes.
Really? Really? In what way is he a rent-a-gob?
Look, as far as I can see from the reporting of the Gaza war, it's been straight down the line. And I've seen some.
All right, John, thank you. Let's go back to you, Stephen.
This is just outrageous nonsense.
Yeah, isn't it? I agree.
It's absolutely through the looking glass to say that this war is being reported from Israel's point of view. Look at what happened with the reported bombing of the hospital early on in this conflict. That was completely inaccurate. The BBC rushed to judgment, and then when Jeremy Bowen was interviewed about it, he admitted it was wrong, and he said he absolutely had no regrets. The BBC had to issue another apology after it reported that the IDF was deliberately targeting medics. Look, the BBC uses Hamas stats with minimal qualification. All it does is it says that
Stop talking over him, John.
All the BBC ever does is report stats as from the Hamas-run Ministry of Health. That goes no way to actually explaining what those statistics represent. It doesn't explain when it reports on the number of fatalities that number includes around 10,000 Hamas terrorists that Israel has murdered. That Israel has killed. It doesn't include the fact that a very large number of rockets directed at Israel from Gaza misfire, land in Gaza, killing Gazans, and those numbers are included in the fatality statistics. It doesn't include the fact that Hamas kills Gazan civilians for resisting them or for trying to follow Israel's instructions to leave an area that is about to be targeted. The BBC just takes Hamas's position on these things without qualifying it properly, and it paints Israel as an aggressor in a war in which Israel is trying to defend itself against a genocidal level of anti-Semitism that has not been seen since the Second World War.
Stephen and John, thank you very much. We're going to have to move on. Thank you, John. Thank you.